You need to calm down. Is there a more counterproductive sentence, piece of advice on planet Earth? I don't think so. The more productive thing when you're stressed out, when you're anxious, I've discovered is to, whether you're sharing this with another person or it's to calm yourself down, is to ask, what's the next right thing that needs to happen? And then do it and start building momentum. Then the next thing and the thing after that. If someone says to you, you need to calm down, it's likely that is going to increase your level of stress and frustration. Not helpful. It's kind of like telling an Instapot to cool down. Pointless. You actually have to take the action to program it, to release the pressure on its own, or, push that little release valve and use a fork to do it because you burn your hand if you use your finger. At least I have. But here's the point. The next right thing for you to do is not a guaranteed certainty. It's a little scary. You might get it wrong. However, I want to encourage you that the danger zone, the scary thing that you need to do next, is where your greatest opportunity is. Because chances are the next right thing for you to do takes a little courage. It's not to stay where you're at, status quo. It might even be a little dangerous. Not deadly. It's not life-ending. That's not the kind of danger I'm talking about. The kind of danger I'm talking about is it might hurt your ego to ask for something and get told no, reject it. It might hurt if you create something and it's not as good as you envisioned in your head, but it's much better to do it and then iterate as you go. So what? The most dangerous place, I'd argue, is to reside in your comfort zone. Of course, I know that sounds cliche, but let me tell you what I mean by that. Scrolling, going through the motions of your day, just kind of avoiding those uncomfortable conversations, avoiding confrontation, you're delaying discomfort at the peril of your future because it will come back to haunt you, those things you avoid now. So you get to choose your discomfort now or later when it's most likely going to be a lot worse because you didn't deal with it earlier. Right now, your perceived danger zone is exactly where your greatest opportunity is. Let's unpack that and talk about what you can do today to take advantage of those biggest opportunities. Welcome. This is The Next Simple Step. I'm Paul Goldsmith. It's safe for babies to lie in their crib in the warm blanket, and eventually, though, they have to get up and learn to crawl and then walk by trial and error. Lots of falling down, but getting back up, and eventually you start walking and just take it all for granted that it was ever hard. Then you learn to run. Most kids run, but eventually stop. It gets hard. But that's why I love running. Every run has its challenges, mentally and physically, but it's one you take one step at a time. And I've read many books on running, bought quite a few pairs of shoes, more than I'd like to admit, and also watched YouTube videos on running. Those things all provide inspiration. However, they're no substitute for actually doing the thing, going on the run and facing my own limitations today. Will I have enough energy or power or motivation to go as fast as I'd like or as far as I'd like? Only one way to find out. Then, depending on the results of today's run, can make some tweaks, whether that's getting better sleep, more fuel, drink more water, electrolyte. There's lots of different variables there that I can change and adapt as I go. And that's what I love about running. Every run is a unique challenge. It is not just about running. It's a mental challenge. And so each of us have things that we stop doing when they get hard. And I realize everything can't be hard, but there are some hard things that you need to face to get on the other side of that growth, to capitalize on that opportunity. It means taking some risk. You might embarrass yourself and you might get judged by others. Worst of all, you'll judge yourself that you didn't live up to your own standard, but the path forward is uncertain. I just read a book that has really provided some great inspiration. It's called Mastering Uncertainty. That's really the secret here. the future is not predictable, and it'd be kind of weird if it was. So rather than try to control all of the variables and wait for just the perfect conditions or the right moment, you have to get out there and try stuff and be open to being wrong and learning and adapting as you go. And I love the book points out how a lot of the big consulting groups go around and they have their own biases and they say this is the only way to be successful in whatever line of business that they're consulting. And they point out one famous example of the Boston Consulting Group produced a report for the British government in 1975 explaining Honda's miraculous success selling small motorcycles in the United States. And it was a case study that happened to conform perfectly to the consulting group's intricate models and theories about how to be successful. But according to Honda themselves, this was mostly nonsense. Their original strategy was to sell big bikes, not small ones, but it ended in disaster. Luckily, the scooters their staff were using to get around Los Angeles attracted a lot of attention, so they sold those instead. It all came down to serendipity and learning, not clever strategy. Now, I'm big on having a strategic plan, but not to the extent that you are unwilling to change as you go, as you learn new information. Herb Kelleher, the founder of Southwest Airlines, says, we have a strategic plan. It's called doing things. Now, I think part of being wise and being an entrepreneur is you've got to adapt as you learn new things, or you try things and they don't work. You don't give up, but you just try again and make adaptations as you go. There are no perfect plans. You have to think in probabilities. What is your next best action? And go from there. If you have a grand vision for what you're trying to accomplish, the vision doesn't change, but the strategy must as you get new information, as you get feedback. Focus on your overarching why and keep moving forward without having to know the whole plan, all the steps before you start. And so the big thing I want to leave you with today is your danger zone is where the opportunity is, because it's dangerous because it might not work. It might hurt your ego. It might make you feel embarrassed. However, incremental progress is where it's at. Because taking the next simple step, hence the podcast, you gather information and then you make the next step after that. Taking imperfect action is better than no action at all. And guess what? You're not done until you decide to quit. And I hope you don't do that, because I believe you have a vision and dreams for a reason. And I don't want you to get to the end of your life and wish you'd have done things differently. I resented the fact that you never took the action, that you didn't live up to your fullest potential. And so reconnect with your overarching vision, your why, and take that next simple step today. Enter in the danger zone and take advantage of the opportunities before you today. If you have some feedback for me, I'd love to know what you're working on and how you're taking the next steps forward. You can reach out at thenextsimplestep.com, or I'm Paul J. Goldsmith on Instagram and X. I appreciate you listening, because I'm uncertain if anyone will listen or not, but I keep creating episodes in hope that you do, and it means so much to me. You made it to the end. I'm Paul Goldsmith, and I'll talk to you next time on the Next Simple Step Podcast.